You're completely crazy. Like you're giving up a 6-figure salary, the pensions and the 18 days off. And I'm like, I thought I was a great sales guy because I did door to door when I was like 15.
Yeah.
I was terrible at it, but I was giving away free soaps and selling vacuums and shit,
Yeah.
And I always work on my attitude because I want a better attitude, like when you ask me something, yes. When you want to do something, yes. Like let's figure it out. I'm trying to find solutions, not problems. I want to be great. I want to help a lot of people. The end result is to help a lot of people, and I know I can't help a lot of people if I have no money.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Light It Up podcast. We are super excited about today's guest. We have in the studio with us Ryan Secco from Cardone Capital. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was tough, man. We've been trying to get you to do an episode for a long time, and I appreciated it because you were always adamant about saying, listen, let's do it in person.
Right.
Let's come into the studio. It's so much more natural and so much more fun and exciting. And what's funny is we've been doing a lot of these episodes, all of them, I'd say, primarily remotely.
Yep.
And we've only done a handful in person.
Yep.
And me and Kiro have talked, offline saying, listen, it's a lot more fun to do them in person.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you pushing for that, and we're just excited to have you here. So
yeah, well, look, I think the energy is 10x for sure when you're in person.
Yeah.
And also the thing about these podcasts, the reason why I do them, and a lot of people don't have to do the podcast, but it's actually I've met some of some great friends.
Yeah.
Like even last year when I think I did 6 or 7 in the city because I come up every year. The guy I was with yesterday, Jay, he connected me with a bunch of these cool facilities for health and wellness and connections, and he knows all the owners. And so it's like this podcast is great, but we're going to be closer moving forward for sure.
Sure.
And you create real friendships in these podcasts.
Yeah.
Not only are we helping people share the story, because look, nobody knows who I am. Everybody knows who Grant Cardone is. But for the majority of it, they know me through Grant because I'm in a lot of his videos. We do a lot of stuff together. I've been with him for 10 years.
Yep.
And
you're his damn pilot.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I started as his pilot. Now we're in the real
VP,
estate game, and I'm his partner on that.
Right.
But it's cool because everybody transitions, right? And Grant always says, look, I'm not looking to just build people up. I want them to have some celebrity as well. So that way, Grant's not the only person doing X.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm excited to go into it, but let's start off with the lightning round.
Let's do it.
Skip, start us off.
Audio Jungle.
All right. So these are always questions we like to just hit you with, just to get to know you a little better.
Did you all make them up, or is that like out of a box?
No, so
It's
John
out of a
stole this from a
box.
bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
All
were
right.
stolen from a bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Icebreakers, I guess, for like first dates and
Yeah.
stuff.
Great.
But you'll appreciate it. Hardest decision you ever had to make?
Well, it was the best decision, but the hardest decision I had to make was when I was 30 years old. I was either going to play out my career at United Airlines for the next 35 years, or I was going to pivot after I met Grant on YouTube. I was going to pivot and change my life trajectory and take the entrepreneur route with Grant.
Wow.
And everybody thought I was crazy, by the way. I mean, everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're completely crazy! Like you're giving up a 6-figure salary, the pensions and the 18 days off." And I'm like, I'm not in this game to get days off. Number one, I've never worked a day in my life. 2, I'm trying to get around the highest of the highest like entrepreneurs in the world.
Yeah.
Like it was very clear for me, but it's very hard because the people around me were telling me like, be careful.
Yeah.
You did all this work, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you just flip the switch and do something completely different?
It wasn't random, but it was definitely aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a visionary or like an integrator? Like a workhorse or a visionary?
So I'm for sure a visionary.
Yeah.
But I also have work ethic because my uncle, when I was growing up, I was 13 years old. I was working on the job sites in real estate.
Yeah.
And I've always had the vision, because real estate, you have to have a vision, right? He was taking dirt and converting it into something we were living in them, right?
Yeah.
He sold most of those homes, but I always had, and I always start with the vision, but I am so willing, and that's what I do every day. Like as far as the operations at Cardone Capital, I am in the trenches, I am in the weeds, because I think a vision without the actual elbow grease and the time, energy, and effort to do it, it's a
intention.
fail. It's a fail. It's a complete fail. So I've got this great balance because obviously I work. Grant is a complete visionary. He's got a lot of great ideas. You have to implement them, right? So there's a time and a place for both.
Yeah.
But look. The vision, we're at 15,000 units. The vision is to go to 100,000 units, and Grant and myself are completely on board with Elena Cardone, right, his wife.
Right.
So you have to have that vision. You all have to be visionaries, but then you also have to have the people who are the workhorses, which I raised my hand, I am.
Yeah.
And so it's a good balance.
Yeah, I think what's really impressive about you is like you look from 20 to 30, you acquired a number of doors, so you had like 20 something doors from that time.
21 units. Yep.
Yep, 21 units, and then you went from 30 to 40 at.
Well, hold on. That was how many units?
So 21 units. So it was like 6 or 7 properties.
At what age?
30 years old.
At 30 years old, while being a full-time pilot.
Yeah.
So like the real estate was in your blood before you met Grant. So I always like to point that out. Like it's a cool story. You were a real estate guy before on your own.
Yep.
You just sought out Grant to
Well,
to use a pun, but-
I was going to get 100 units, because when I think everybody tries to start too big, and it's not a fail. I mean, if you have all the materials, if you have the know-how, you can start bigger.
Yeah.
But when I wanted to go get 100 units, I was looking at 40s and 80s and 90s, and this was in like 2012, 2013. What happened was I called the debt broker, and I'm like, hey, I've got this great deal, and he's like, well, what's the DSCR?
Yeah.
And I'm like, DSC.
Call you right back.
I was like, what do you mean DSCR? He's like, well, Ryan, it's the debt service coverage ratio. And I'm like, well, let me go look that up, and then let me get you the number. Like, because I didn't know, there's so many angles in real estate, right? Because once you're at the level that we are, the debt broker actually works for me now. They work for us, you know. The broker, they actually are an advisor. They work for you. So like I always thought that I needed to know everything, like, oh, what's the NOI and what's the expenses and what's this? Like when you start tapping into all these resources, it becomes much easier. But to your point, I was going to do it hell or high water. I was going to get into 100 units, 200 units, because that's what that's always been my vision. And I was studying Reg D also, which is crowdfunding. I was going to the real estate guys, the syndicators. I was going to Reg D classes when I was 26, 27 years old. And the craziest thing in the world that always surprised me, but it was so weird, like, in Reg D 506B, you cannot do general solicitation, which is like social media was coming out, and you can't go on there and say, hey, I got this great deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why not?
Yeah.
And then the Jobs Act passed in 2014 and then 2016, and they started having these revisions to it where you can start using general solicitation. So when I was on Grant's team and we're doing our real estate deals, and then this thing started getting bigger and better and faster, I was like, dude, at the time, you had like 10 million followers. And he had these great deals.
Yeah.
I was like, if we can combine the two.
That was your idea.
Oh, we started off with our first deal was $20 million. We raised $6 million. Grant didn't actually want to raise money from, he had a couple of friends and family, but he thought that raising money from investors was going to be more of a pain in the ass than the reward.
Yeah.
And, for me, I was actually solving for myself because I wanted to invest with Grant. And at first he was like, he let, 1 or 2 guys and a couple of friends invest with him. It wasn't like a completely wide open thing. And I was like, man, I really want to invest with you. And not only do I, but a bunch of people want to invest with you. Because when you see the deals that we're doing, it's like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. It's interesting because this morning it came to me like, it just like, as I was meditating, it was just like, oh shit. In Think and Grow Rich, in the first chapter, it's talking about Barnes goes to Edison, and he was like so determined, had the intention that he was going to go into business with Edison, hell or high water, right? It's almost kind of like the same kind of thing, right? Which is really, really cool. What do you attribute, because you started off as a salesperson, you didn't start off as a pilot.
Right.
How did you get into that position to get more proximity?
So I called the front desk, and this Angela answered the phone, and she actually tried to talk me out of going and working with Grant because she's like, "Well, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh,
these people are nuts."
I'm a commercial airline pilot. I'm a commercial airline pilot, which is completely random to begin with, right? But it holds this really cool level. When you're a captain flying a $40 million jet, it's
You're
pretty
responsible
cool.
for it. Yeah.
I just called in. And I said, "Hey, I want to work with Grant. Like I could see it, what he was talking about." In like the ease that he was talking with, I was like, man, this guy's gonna buy an airplane in the next couple weeks. He's like, oh, I'm hard on an airplane. I'm gonna buy it in 3 weeks. And anybody who actually wants to join my team. So there's 2 things: YouTube and Bigger Pockets. He's like, anybody who wants to join my team and help me grow this real estate thing, like call me, reach out. And so I did. And I was actually really nervous. I was like, man, I'm making this big change. I'm making this big move. But I jumped on the jump seat. I was in Arizona. I went down to Miami. I met with Jared and Sherry, and I'm like, hey, look, what openings do you have? They're like, well, we've got a sales job opening. And I'm like, well, what do you do? They're like, you make 120 phone calls a day. I'm like, good, I'll take it.
Yeah. Got it.
And within 2 weeks, I had packed up all my stuff. I was in the building, and I was working for Grant.
Your parents thought you were insane.
Oh, they thought I was insane. Never met Grant. In the first day, I actually met Elena, his wife, and I went up to her. I said, hey, look, you don't know who I am. My name is Ryan Secco. I just started working here as a sales guy, but here's 3 things that I really love to do, and I think I could add value. I've been flying for the last 10 years. I got 10,000 hours, and I could fly this new airplane that you guys are getting. Second thing is I love real estate. I got 21 units, and I just like however I could help Grant with the real estate, would love to do it. And the third thing is I love helping people because, look, giving back is hard. But the more you grow and scale, the easier it is, because you get to tap into the relationships like this, where it's a bigger platform.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, does Grant know this? And I was like, no, this is why I'm introducing myself. Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, that's incredible. She's like, I love it. And so we hit it off right out of the gate. And through that process, Grant's interviewing pilots, and she's like, Grant, you understand that you have a sales guy that has 10,000 hours, right? And he's like, yeah, I get it. But I want to keep him on the phones. Yeah. And she's like, Grant, you should at least give him a shot, interview him.
Awesome.
He brings me in.
Why is the woman always the voice of reason, right?
Well, you know what? Because we talked about the vision, right?
Yeah.
The vision, sometimes we're all working like wild
right in front of you.
The vision of the greater good is like, okay, we already have a guy here that is willing to work on the days off. Because remember, as a pilot, you have 18 days off or 15 days off, depending on the travel schedule, right? Yeah. And so he brought me in, Grant Cardone fashion. He said, if I hire you to become the captain, will you also work with me in the business? And I said, Grant, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
He says, good. He says, prove it to me. Will you sign a 3-year contract? I said, yeah, I'll sign a 5-year contract. He's like, write it up. And so we wrote up a 5-year contract. I signed it. And I went to training. 4 weeks later, I was type rated in the Gulfstream G200. And I put that whole, I helped put the whole thing together, the maintenance and the scheduling and the crew and the because there's a lot of stuff that goes into managing an airplane.
Yeah.
And he saw that I was like on top of that game.
Yeah.
And we started traveling the world. Like you guys got to keep in mind, the unique opportunity that I got was when I joined his team, I was flying for Grant, only Grant, with Grant.
Yeah.
And when we're not working, we're working on the business. And so he starts bringing me in on meetings. He starts bringing me in on, deals, and we're walking real estate, and we're going everywhere together. And on the days off, he saw me showing up. I wasn't even, I thought I was a great sales guy because I did door to door when I was like 15.
Yeah.
I was terrible at it, but I was giving away free soaps and selling vacuums and shit,
Yeah.
But that's actually what forced me into aviation. Some of these things help and they're all relatable, but I was like, man, I kept asking him questions, and he kept seeing me showing up, and he's like, well, shit, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep using this kid, to get better. And we started, the running joke was that Grant and I were hanging out more than him and Elena. Obviously that's not true, but it was funny because we were together. Again, when you're flying with somebody and you're stopping, Grant always wants the crew and the people, like it's a family.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, well, you're a pilot, you're going to the hotel. They like when we were traveling the world, I was staying with them. Like Grant is such an amazing. He gets a lot of bad pushback, but he's such an amazing creature. He's such a amazing spirit because he includes the crew. He includes like the team is just different. It's more like family.
Yeah.
Well, I think when it's great people, it's hard. Like that's part of the hiring requirement, right?
And it's rare, it's rare to find somebody who's all in. I pride myself on, I've probably got one of the best attitudes, and I always work on my attitude because I want a better attitude. Like when you ask me something, yes. When you want to do something, yes. Like let's figure it out. I'm trying to find solutions, not problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I love that. Yeah. So when it's interesting because it's Grant is definitely a who, not how kind of guy, right? And it's like you have a big part of the intellectual part that you can see because Pace had an interviewer. He met with Grant and they were talking about Sub 2.
Yep.
And then Grant called you. He's like, "Did you know this?" And you're like, "Yeah, this is how we do this, that, and the other."
The
so it's
deed was separate from the mortgage.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've become like a big cause for the. It sounds like, at least from seeing it from this side, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you know now that you wish you would have advised your 30-year-old self before getting inside?
Before getting inside?
The organization.
Well, God, I mean, everybody wishes they would have started earlier,
Sooner,
right?
yeah.
You know, in 29, like in 2009, 2010, 2011, you know, the homes in Arizona were 50% off, you know, but that's why I was trying to figure out how to raise money because I ran out of money, right?
Yeah.
The conviction and the confidence is probably one that I wish I would have had more of because I would have just bought more. You know, I wouldn't have had 21 units. I would have had, you know, 2,100 units.
Yeah.
The frustrating piece is the patience part. And if you're armed with the information, you don't have to have patience. You got to do more. But you know, look, I don't have a lot of regrets. You know, I am in the right spot. Where we're going is the right place. We're helping a lot of people. So I mean, I could regret things, but I fully focus on the future. Like, okay, you know, we've built this great brand, this massive portfolio. A lot of people look at it and like, wow, that's a great size portfolio. It's almost 15,000 units.
Yeah, it's insane.
But we don't really celebrate, you know, the deals closing. It's like, okay,
Right.
we take that momentum and we're like, well, what's next? Like I was on over here, I was on a phone call with, you know, a broker in Florida saying, hey, look, we just went hard on a deal. What's next? You know, like
It's always what's next. Yeah.
But that's that mindset that Grant has really helped me with, and also previous mentors too. You know, like they've always really forced work ethic into me. But again, to your question, I just wish I would have done more from a younger age.
Yeah.
And yeah, do I wish I would have met Grant when I was 21 years old? Yeah, I do. You know, I'd probably we'd both be in a different situation because it's better as a team.
Yeah.
But you know, look, the aviation for me was a great stepping stone. I rode that career really hard. I was 21 years old flying a $40 million jet, traveling the world. I think that also put a lot of character and grit into me. Where I was when I joined Grant's team, it was like everybody was like, oh my God, you know, like how do you do it? What do you mean? How do I do what? Like I've never literally worked a day in my life.
Yeah, because you enjoy it.
Because I enjoy it. The pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
The pressure is a privilege.
I like that one.
But the aviate, yeah, I saw somebody posted that recently.
Did they? Well, I just made it famous.
I'm not saying you stole it. I'm like,
Yeah.
was it a Grant thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a Seco thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but the aviation is what got you, like you were saying, you know, being that pilot puts you in that close proximity. And, you know, it's not just like the actual like flying process. I'm sure it's wherever you are in between cities or in between appointments, there's so much exposure. And like, that's what I know we wanted to talk about proximity and exposure. So much of that time with him that's what got you, you know, where you are today.
Oh,
you know, so
for
it's like,
sure. The
yeah.
spool up. It's like a jet engine. You like once it gets spooled up, you just learn so much more from not reading books, right? Like reading books was great and it helped me tremendously. Like, oh, what are the benefits of real estate, right? But once you know all that stuff, then you got to get into the arena. You have to get on the field to play the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're not playing the game, it's all just conceptual. It's like all great concepts and people are like, oh, 1031s and da-da-da-da. It's like, have you ever done one before? Have you ever used one before? Have you ever reached out to a person and said, hey, you got X amount of days? And you know, so yeah, I mean, look, you know, the setup for me was like, get in the field, because you guys got to remember, one of my goals when I was 25 years old, 26 years old, is that I wanted to be surrounded by the highest echelon of people, the movers and shakers, the top entrepreneurs in the world, so that way they can teach me the game.
Yeah,
I love that.
I was really smart from a really young age because I knew mentors. Like one of my uncles, I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
He was my mentor because my parents got divorced when I was 9, and so I just when I found the first mentor, I was like,
What'd your
holy
uncle do?
shit, he elevated my game so much. He was a builder. He also had a computer business.
Nice,
So I worked
okay.
with him in both. He was an entrepreneur though, and he thought different than my dad. My dad was, you know, working at the railroad. He had a career set up. You know, he worked the night shift. You know, he was a hard worker.
Yeah.
But my uncle worked smarter, and he used, you know, some of the other people's money. He also had partnerships that I learned a lot from. But he was just he worked on his business, not in somebody else's business.
Yeah.
So he's supporting himself. I
And that
love
was a mind shift for me when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
Like he was my mentor. He was like, hey, I'm going to show you the road. You show up here at the age of 13 years old. By the age of 16 years old, I'll buy you a car if you work on the job site with me for the next 3 years. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Dude, but it's crazy.
a lot of people pushing you into those 3-year contracts, huh?
Well, you know, and I'm willing to go 10. I'm willing to go infinite.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's the right opportunity,
Of course.
people get so hung up. Like my girlfriend, her brother was like, oh my God, well, I'm looking at this next job and they want a contract. I'm like, look, if you go to that job, number one, it's going to give you great experience because you're going to learn, right? Because you just got out of college.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the breakup fee's like 30 grand. And I said, and it's 3 years. I'm like, here's what I'll do. If you're so terrified of this, I have complete confidence in you. I'll help you pay off that thing. If you don't last the 3 years and you find a better job, Like I'll help you do that just to get people over the hurdle. He's never going to ask me for it, right?
Yeah.
But like I've already overcome all those hurdles because it's like we're all built for so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because I'm 30 right now and I can't imagine literally picking up everything and being like, adios familia, adios friends, I'm out. But that's like, you had some crazy strong conviction. And the problem is
Yes.
like, there's so much misinformation today too. It's like, how did you know in your gut that that was the right decision to make?
Well, I knew the real estate game for me was the right decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was like when he's buying an airplane, Grant Cardone is very, you know, again, what he talks about is so simple. So I really resonated with that.
Yeah.
And I was already I was already looking at a lot of other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so when you find the right guy who's already in your 2 lanes, like that is what made it so easy for me. I was like, okay, I did the Tim Ferriss thing, right? Like, here's what I'm currently doing. If I give it all up right now, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Oh, great, I'm going to go back to what I was already doing, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm already like the most qualified pilot in the world. 10,000 hours, you know,
Yeah.
never called in sick one time in 9 years. The chief pilot loves me. He was like trying to get me to stay. He was like, just let me give you a leave of absence for a year. I'm like, okay, pay me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when you're this kind of person, like we are, you know, you have options.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I'm going to regret not taking that chance or whatever
Right.
it may be that people look at it with Grant Cardone or with the next person or whatever. Like I truly believe that I'll be successful.
Yeah.
I'll just be more successful with Grant.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because he already had a platform. Here's the airplane. Here's 3,000 units.
Yeah.
You know,
That was your vision.
That was my vision. And then we got bigger airplanes and we got more deals. And you know, after like 6 months, I was like, you don't even think about it anymore because you're just solely surrounded by like what you want to do.
Yeah. No, I love that. What do you think the 10-year vision next is going to be
Yeah, I
like?
was gonna.
Well, look, you know, if you ask my girlfriend, she'd be depressed that she's 40 years old. I'm excited.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the things my uncle told me when I was 17 years old and I was getting into flying, he's like, Ryan, if you want to go that route where your friends are going right now, where it's smoking dope and drinking and smoking, you're going to do that. You're just going to start at 25 and 26 years old because you got to get that out of your system.
Yeah.
If you start now, you're 17 years old, and you really put in the time, energy, and effort to be something great, it's the snowball effect. You're going to be like 30 years old. I was reaping great benefits when I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
Hanging out with, you know, having Grant as a mentor, as a boss, as a friend, like that's a huge win, right?
Yeah.
But he's like, if you're starting now, you have 13 years to win. And then you have 30 to 40, 10 years to win. Now you have 23 years.
Yeah.
By the age of 40 years old, and that's why I'm excited about it. People are like, dude, I love your energy. I love your attitude about it. I'm like, well, yeah, because I've been working towards this goal for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so the next 40 to 50, through training and through relationships and through education and through a lot of deals, like with Grant, I've done over $4 billion worth of transactions. You know, I met with JP Morgan yesterday with one of the top bankers. I met with a couple other groups yesterday, you know, so like having that, I'm now able to, Grant and I are able to grow and scale Cardone Capital at an even faster rate than we did over the last 10, because we are just operating different now, right?
Yeah.
So going from 15 to 25 doesn't seem as scary. Right. And you know, we think the next 18 to 24 months is a great opportunity to buy real estate because we're buying all cash now. But I think that I think the next 10 is going to be a huge run for me. I think we'll go from, you know, from a professional standpoint, I think we'll go from 15,000 units to, you know, call it 35 to 40,000 units.
Okay.
But on a personal level, it's the next chapter for me. You know, I've been dating my girlfriend for the last 5 years. She's the one. She's amazing. She pisses me off sometimes, but we're so much alike, so I piss her off too.
Yeah.
But we want to start a family. You know, we want to have a couple kids, and you know, we're in a good spot now where we can do that and focus on that. She'll be a great mother. So I'm really looking forward to a couple things, but it's not all business.
Yeah.
But my whole life has been about business, but it's also been about relationships and health. You know, I'm in, you know, great shape and continue to play that out. So it's really 3 things: continue to grow the health piece,
Yep.
the relationship piece, and then wealth.
How does it feel to say 4 billion, by the way?
Well, so we're almost up to, so I've done 4 billion in transactions. So we're almost 5 billion.
Okay.
You know, I don't think of it like that. I think of it like a lot of responsibility, and the people that I'm accountable to, it's not just Grant, it's the investors.
Yeah.
And I've always liked responsibility. From a young man, I was 21 years old. I was
Yeah.
the youngest pilot to fly 70 passenger jet for United. And at the age of 23, it's the youngest age to become a captain. I was 23 in like 4 months. I became captain.
Nice.
And so now you're making the decisions, right? I treat it the same way. There is A to B. Here's the game plan. Here's the mission. Let's do it with integrity, the right way, and you know, just being like having fun, but just, you know, doing it every single day.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not like overly complicated. Some people come in here, they're like, based on this spreadsheet and based on this and based on this. It's like, no, you find the right team, you find the right relationships, you have all those people as your advisors, because you got to think about Ryan Secco and Grant Cardone. I've got 32 staff underneath me that work, but I've also got another, 15 who are like the best attorneys, the best property managers, and we have another 350 staff that work on the third-party property management that actually run the properties that are branded 10X Living. So it's like, here I sit around a bunch of really, really smart people that make me look really, really smart, and also make me look really, really dumb sometimes too. But you have to learn from those mistakes, that when you look dumb, so that way you can look smart again.
Funny how that works.
So that's part of leadership, right?
A lot of who, not how, right? It's just who's the best person for the job, and just getting the right people in the right seats.
And you outgrow a lot of people along the way.
Right.
And that's something that you have to get over too as like an entrepreneur. It's like, that attorney that I started with, once you get past $1 billion, he's the wrong attorney, because now you're moving into that next level. You have to have somebody with more capacity and more institutional knowledge. Yeah. Because if you guys look at our expansion too, like we started out buying, smaller deals, but now we're buying from like the biggest groups in the world. The EQRs and the JP Morgans. And
it's insane what you guys did, because you guys basically built an institution just off of social media and a brand.
That's right.
And it's kind of, that's unheard of. So you're able to buy institutional assets that other big corporations would have access to, which is pretty insane.
And cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
In that vein, so like obviously your goal was to get proximity to Grant.
Yep.
You've achieved it, you've got it. Now you guys are partners and full steam ahead. Who are you guys collectively trying to get proximity to? Like who's a mentor for the two of you?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the names that are big right now are, Blackstone and Starwood and, EQR and really the list goes on. But it's the institution, because, look, we are moving more towards becoming an institution, and we could either, sell Cardone capital in 5, 7, 10 years to them, because those are the relationships, right? Like I was at JP Morgan yesterday. We have a meeting with Blackstone. Like those people have already paved the way. Yeah. So we're not like fighting and we're not against them. It's more like, hey, how do we build a really, really amazing portfolio? Because we're buying the best stuff, right? And use a model that's already worked, but just cut out all that middle layer stuff, which is like RIAs, which is a registered investment advisor, which is a broker dealer, which they want 3 and 4 and 5 and 6% to raise money. We cut out all those people, so that way we're saying, here's the best deals that those guys want. Yeah. So you have multiple exits. Here's the deals that those guys want, but also the retail investors want it too. Retail means that you and me, right? We're retail investors. That's what they consider us. And there's 2 types. There's the accredited and non-accredited, right? And that just means that you make over 200 grand a year, or your net worth is over $1 million. What we found is that if we run those both parallel, then the non-accredited who's investing 25 grand and the accredited who's investing 500 grand, we could actually run those parallel and everybody can get a better asset, especially the non-accredited. Because if you think about it, like I'm a commercial airline pilot, I'm making 125, 130 grand per year. I'm non-accredited. And that pissed me off. I was like, I'm non-accredited, so I don't get access to, a 300 unit apartment complex. Yeah. So I have to go out, I'm forced to do it by myself. Yeah. And so that's really why, Grant, Elaine, and myself, when we started opening the funds up, we could have just gone the high net worth route, right? But we also wanted to go the non-accredited route, so that way they got access to these big deals and they didn't feel left out. We've done 4 of those successfully. They started out at 50 million. Now you can do 75 million. It's called the Reg A fund. Okay. And we set up the same deal. So it's an 80-20 split. They both get, the same asset. It's pretty amazing, like what we've done. And the cool thing is, like, when say you came in and did $1 million, we're not paying the broker dealer 3 and 4 and 5% to get your $1 million to invest in the deal. You're getting direct access through Cardone Capital, through Grant, into the next deal. No fee. Yeah. Now we obviously have fees to do the deals, acquisition, all that stuff, but
no broker dealer fee.
But what people don't realize is that there are multiple other fees in addition to the guys who are running it before you even get a deal.
Yeah. You said now you guys are buying all cash, so you're not going to be going to get funding. You're just going to raise all the money
Yeah, right now.
Potentially,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because what happened was the interest rates got high so quick,
True.
and cap rates. What you're buying these deals at, they were, say we're buying a deal trophy asset in Florida for a 5.5 cap rate or a 5.25, 5. Debt's at 6%. So what happens is we're focused on cash because that's what you want. That's what I want. That's what Grant wants. You want that drip every single month. Boom, right? Boom, 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 boom. And so what we tell the investors is, hey, you get 5 to 6% starting out. You get the tax benefits that offset that, so you don't pay tax. But if we go and buy these deals at a 5.5 cap and we put debt at a 6, it's negative leverage. So now you're getting a 4, 4.5, depending on the deal, right? And so what we found is like, okay, if we can go and buy them all cash, we can position ourselves. Number one, we're getting better deals. We're getting awarded the deals. And we beat out the competition because we have so much certainty because we don't have to go to the debt market and negotiate with them to actually close the transaction.
Yeah.
So it actually solves for a couple different things.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing it solves for is you could buy a deal for, say, a 5.5 cap, and you could give to the investors a 5% or a little above a 5. And so everybody's happy. And then you package all these together. And then when the debt comes down, because eventually the debt will come down, where does it settle?
Refi, everybody. Yeah.
You refi, pull the money out. It's a non-taxable event. You still stay in the deal. You still keep the cash flow, and you reinvest in that
Returns
deal.
are infinite.
Yeah.
And you're able to buy, like in this marketplace, you're able to buy better assets and beat out your competition because
you're paying
again,
cash.
you're paying cash.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
So when you say cash, you're literally just going to raise the full boat.
We closed the deal 3 weeks ago. It was almost 500 units in Plantation. It's called Jacaranda, Laurels at Jacaranda. We paid $130 million plus or minus, all cash.
Wow. So let's just say that's 100 for easy numbers.
Yeah.
Normally, if that was 2, 3, 4 years ago
Yeah.
when interest rates were lower, you would have just had to raise 25 million. But now
25,
you got to
30
raise
million bucks.
100 million or
Yeah.
130 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you're saying 80-20 split, it's 80% to the investor, 20% held by Cordon Capital.
That's right. Yeah. So on the profits, the lion's share goes to the investor, 80%. So if we sell, we make 10 million
it.
bucks. They get to split 8 million. We get to keep 2.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Which is actually, if you think about it, a lot of people, they get it really confusing with it. They do different tiers, but a lot of people are like 75-25. We used to be 65-35.
Got it.
But we wanted to make it super simple for the investor, where it's like, hey, look, because you guys got to think about it. We want to scale.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not worried about the nickels and dimes along the route. It's like we think that we can grow this thing big enough and get enough scale where the exit's going to be great for the investors and also for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you to get to like 40,000 units, how much do you guys think you have to raise between now and then?
Well, look, I take it in a couple different tranches, right?
Yeah.
So we've raised already $4 billion, and we're controlling almost $5 billion, right? So depending on what happens, and we think like when we do all these deals all cash, when we refinance, we'll be able to pull that money out. Majority of the people are going to just reinvest, and we'll go and buy more deals, right? But if when the debt market comes back down, I think over the next, you just say. Just easy numbers. If you just double the portfolio, right? So $5 billion, you raise another 2 billion bucks.
Yeah.
I think we can do it in the next 2 years.
Yeah. If you think about that though,
It's insane.
if the interest rates come down and you guys go refinance and you go to give all these people their money back, they're going to give it right back to you.
800 million bucks.
So you guys better have something, a lot of shit lined up for them to buy, right?
Well, what happens
and
is
that's a
with these
beautiful
relationships-
problem.
Yeah,
You're like, hey, here's all this money back. And they're like, we don't want it. We want the returns. Go out and find us more stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
They want more depreciation. They want more returns. They want multiple assets. The thing that people are missing out the most is the relationships.
Yeah.
When you're closing deals all cash, like the deals we just did, we built a great relationships with these sellers.
Yeah.
So to your point, when we go and refinance these, like we're not only looking at single assets anymore, we're looking at portfolios now too.
Yeah.
So it's like we can go and grab 2,000 units at a time, 3,000 units at a time, 1,000 units at a time. So these are the things that unlock when a lot of other people are on the sidelines because they can't get a committee to approve. And they just got different buckets, right? Like we've always been simple, multifamily. We have 2 office complexes, but one's in Arizona, it's our HQ, one's in Aventura, it's our HQ. But we've never gotten really super confusing to the public where it's like, oh, well, we have office and we have storage and we have land and we have development and we have, it's like multifamily, in place, existing, let's scale.
But you guys aren't doing like class B or C. I mean, you're doing really, from what I say on your website, it's primarily all class A, right?
Yeah, most of it's class A for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do a couple of value add deals, but as long as it's in a class A location.
So how do you add value to a class A property that's already, like my experience, like I used to be in private equity and maybe this is a naive question, but a lot of times what we would do is buy like Class C
Right.
and make it into Class B. We were never trying to be the Class A guy.
Right.
Or we'd buy Class B and maybe make it into like a B plus.
Right.
But how do you add value to a property that's already Class A?
Sometimes what happens is you actually just buy the property at the right time and you just raise rents.
Yeah.
There's other components to it as well. Like I personally feel with interest rates being high, you're able to buy at a higher cap rate. When interest rates go down, the cap rates go lower. That's probably the biggest value creation, right? Because if you're selling at a 4 cap and you're buying at a 5.5, you have to do 0 and you just made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is expenses. Insurance got crazy. So you're buying it, right now, if it's $2,000 or $2,500 per door, the underwriting, and then insurance comes down to normalized, which is $800, $1,000, $1,500. That's a lot of bottom line dollars right there. But then also in growth markets, you will get now. Will rents go 3% every year? No, that's what the model says it will do. But it's going to go flat, then it's going to go up, then it's going to go flat, then may come down a little bit. But if you look at all the factors that are going into play here, right? Yeah. Home prices are continuing to go up. The cost of living is continuing to go up. Actually, renting is not only going to be forced upon people, but it's a great option because you got great amenities and you're taking care of people, and the stuff that we're buying. People in Florida, we have over 10,000 units in Florida. People are continuing to come down. So to keep it simple, I always said this, where people go, the returns go.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think too, like you guys have such scale now that, I imagine you can, even if you're not able to add tremendous value by, changing the amenities or adding different features and benefits to the property.
Because you don't have to, because they're already done.
You could just reduce the expenses, right? I mean, by bringing in maybe your own in-house management.
That's right.
Or like you said, going through the insurance.
And sharing staff, starting to run the maintenance different ways.
Getting creative that way.
I want to give you a scenario. Let's assume that you lost everything today, right? And then you got planted in New Jersey, right? You had to start from 0 to make 200 doors. What would be your steps to get there?
Well, it's simple. I'd start calling every broker. I'd start calling everybody that's connected to the real estate, and I would just start focusing on the deal. I wouldn't focus on anything else. I wouldn't focus on raising money. I wouldn't focus on the network. I wouldn't focus on the confidence. I wouldn't focus on any of that stuff. I wouldn't focus on the banking. I'd focus on the deal. The number one thing and the important thing about getting a deal is actually having a deal, because all the other stuff comes in line. And the people who control the deals are the people who control the deals, which are the brokers. So I'd focus fully on them, and I would just build massive value. I wouldn't waste a bunch of their time. I'd call them and say, hey, you know what? My name is Ryan Secco. I've been doing real estate for the last, call it 25 years, really institutional for the last 10. Bought and sold over $5 billion worth of real estate. I love your market. I've already done a lot of research on your market. This is where I'm going to stick and stay. I need your help to get these deals going. What deals, like what 4 or 5 deals can I look at right now? Promise I won't waste your time. I'll look at them, give me one day. I'll get back with you with some feedback tomorrow, and then we can just expand from there. And I would do that 10 times so I can start finding these deals, because the relationships, again, the people have to believe in you and me in order to award us the deal. Once they award me the deal, now I already know what to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm going out. Now I'm working on phase 2, which is the deck. If I don't know how to raise money, I know how to raise money, right? But if I'm starting from scratch, I don't want to go and raise 100% of it. So I'm building a base. I want to go and put 30% down. So I get the deal. Now I start focusing on the debt, and I'm going to ask the guy who I called, who would you use for debt? Who's your relationships? Right? And then the third thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a deal. I'm going to put a little package together, and I'm going to start going to these networking events saying, hey, look, I got this deal under control, under contract. I'm putting money in. I've already got the majority of it raised. I'm going to put you down for what, 50, 200, 250, 300. How much do you got? How liquid are you? By the way, do you have an IRA? And then step 4 is I'm going to just keep working.
You've thought about this before. I love this.
This is what I do, though. This is what I do, right? This is what I do. Yeah. So I got the deal. I got the debt. I've got the equity now, and then I'm going to go and
close.
I'm gonna close the deal. But that deal gave me all that confidence to do all that stuff.
I think the most important thing you said there, though, is get the deal first, right? And Grant said something years ago, and I've read all the books, but I'm not like the biggest Cardone student, but I can tell you one thing. He said something years ago that's always stuck with me, is like, commit to the deal and figure out the rest later.
That's
and
right.
it's all going to fall into place.
That's right.
I was on a mastermind, I think last night, and there was an investor talking about how, he was looking at a deal, and he's like, how would you guys underwrite this? Are my construction costs good? And I was like, do you have it under contract? He's like, oh no, actually somebody else came in with a higher offer. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? We're all going to talk about what you could pay and what what would it cost and what would you sell it for? But if you don't have the deal, like, what's the deal? So I was like, I was actually giving him some, like, from a realtor perspective. I was like, dude, you got to call him. You got to say this. You got to ask him if you could just send the offer right to his attorney, so maybe the realtor's not screwing you out of the deal, whatever it was. And he's like, Well, I was really just looking for insight as to like what construction costs would be. I'm like, dude, who cares what construction costs
Right.
are if you don't have the deal?
Right.
But that puts you in a position, like that's the biggest thing that I'll tell people out there is like that puts you in a position of control.
Totally.
Because once you lock up that deal and it's in your control, if you then do your due diligence on construction costs and you're like, shit, I overpaid, or I'm not gonna be able to get it done for this price, then guess what? You back out, you cancel, right? All of this before your deposit or whatever. But but that puts you in the position of control because then you can cancel, right? But if you don't have the deal, then what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So it just drives me nuts. But it's interesting.
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah. And yeah, I liked your perspective there.
No, I just love how you said easy, and then you went right into it. It's like it's literally how you think about it.
Yeah.
How would you define a deal that's worth raising money for?
Well, look, I look at deals a little different now.
Okay.
I always look at, and I've studied a lot of markets too, right? I think even the deals that you don't do push you back to great deals that you're going to do.
Okay.
Because you have to look at a lot of deals, right? So, for me, what is a good deal now is, something that I want to own for long periods of time, right? Like what looks good when you show people, what are they going to say if you're doing a Class C deal and you got a broken down car in front of it, right?
Yeah.
So I look at deals a little different because that's what I was starting out with, though, right? Just to be clear, I was starting out with 4 units and 8 units, and the rents were $500, and they were not great. Now the stuff that we do is it's like, a lot of these high net worth individuals, they want the best assets in the best locations. Because, look, I could waver a little bit on the deal, but it's got to be a great location. Because I've studied and I've seen these deals, like which ones do the best is the ones in the best locations.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, the bigger you can get, the better.
Meaning units.
Meaning units, right? So a lot of people, they think like 40 and 50 and 60 units is big enough. It's really not. It's really 100 units. And so 100 units, you can actually start affording a staff member, one in and one out, a leasing agent, full time. Because otherwise you're going to start creating a job for yourself, right? So I always look at it, okay, is it over 100 units? Great. Is it in a great location? Great. Who's the broker? Do I know him? Great. Who's the seller? Do I know him? Great. What's the debt going to provide? Okay, it's going to provide this. Great. So there's just a couple checks that, like my checklist, my pilot checklist that I go through, and if they meet all those, and I'm like, let's go, let's run. And I know once I do all that, I know the investors are going to like it. I know the lenders are going to like it. But it's like, you got to do a lot of deals, and like that's what.
Yeah.
If I go back to one thing in this podcast where people should really, really take away. The biggest reason why I wanted to join Grant Cardone's team, and I would have worked for Grant for free, and I've told him that before, because I wanted to know how to act and operate like a billionaire. And so when you get around billionaires, you start to learn and talk and act like a billionaire. Because you have to believe and act and talk and be surrounded by those folks in order to actually become it. Because otherwise you can't. You guys started out. Are you a visionary or are you a hard worker? Well, I'm both, right? Yeah. But if you don't see it, then you can't really vision it. My goals and dreams and everything have changed every year. They've gotten bigger because I'm thinking bigger.
Right.
But man, I just always go back to these deals, man. What gets you excited? Like what do you want to work on? Do you want to keep this thing for 10 years? Like, and if the answer is yes, then it's unfortunate because some people, they're like, it's a shitty deal, and they're like, yeah, I love it, and like you're like, let me shake you for like an hour right now because you're not talking any sense. It's not a 4-cap market for a C-class property. You got all this execution risk. You
got to look at more deals before you
got to look at a lot of deals.
You think that one's exciting?
You got to look at a lot of deals, and the way you look at a lot of deals is you get around people who have a lot of deal flow.
I like how you said that, deal flow.
Deal flow.
I got last question for you.
Yeah.
When are you gonna pop the question?
God, man.
Put him on the spot, man.
You
say it like you're a married man.
I know.
Yeah.
Engaged twice though. So I know.
Are you not married?
No, I was engaged twice, but I know how to do this. So
well,
if you need advice on how to, if you need advice on how to propose, I got you.
I'm staying out of this conversation.
You didn't get married?
No. Okay. I usually just end it right before. So it's like I'm good at popping the question, but I'm not good at the end.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Follow through? Not so much.
I need to do it within like the next 60 days.
Oh.
Yeah. It's gotta happen. I mean, I've already made my mind up, so it's like, what am I waiting for at this point?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I told him. Okay, so a picnic is a really good idea. I have a basket in my car. I can literally give it to you.
Yeah. Okay.
You can set it up and you can pop it there.
Okay.
Central Park is not a bad idea either.
Yeah.
You can do it tonight.
Yeah. No, it's actually not. Yeah.
Well,
heavy pressure.
What's one thing you want to leave the audience with?
Man, if they could just take away one thing, the people who you surround yourself with, we all hear that, the 5 people you surround yourself with are who you become. it's really the one person you surround yourself with. You know, if you can find a mentor, if you can find somebody who can elevate your game and put you in the game, you will be 10x greater than you can even ever imagine. You know, because the game that you're playing right now is really, really small. The game that I'm playing, by the way, right now is really, really small compared to where I'm going. And so just stay humble and be an ethical person. You know, don't get a deal and think like it's going to make you and change your life and you know, cut all these relationships, because that's happened to me before, where it's like I partner with somebody very young and they're like, oh, we got this one deal, I don't really need you. So I've learned a lot along the road. I'm like, that was a terrible partner.
Yeah.
When you find the right people where it's like, hey, the vision's so big and the vision's so great. A lot of people right now are short-sighted, but again, find the right person, not the right people. Stick and stay, be loyal. They'll open up their book, they'll open up their knowledge. And when you start creating this loyalty with the people, that's where your life starts to change. Because again, it's not about what you own, it's about what you control.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have to ask this other follow-up question, because you even from when you were like younger, you were waking up and very intentional with everything you're doing, even with being a pilot, like very intentional, no days off, 9 years.
Yep.
What drives you?
God, it's you know, I want to be great. You know, I want to help a lot of people. You know, the end result is to help a lot of people, and I know I can't help a lot of people if I have no money. You know, people are like, well, you could help people with where you are. I'm like, I am helping people with where I am, but I want to help a lot of people. I want to help a lot of people, and I know the tools in this current environment that we're in. It takes money to help people, and it takes control of things to help people. So, I think other people drive me though too. You know, I found in my life that having mentors, they drive me, because I need somebody to hold me accountable. So like our partners at Cardone Capital, they drive me, because I don't want to fail them. It's almost a bit
like what you said before. Pressure is a privilege, right?
Pressure is a
you
privilege.
Sort of wake up with that. I don't know. I feel like I've tried to set it up where I do have that pressure each day.
Yeah.
Pressure to show up, pressure to perform, pressure to, you know, there's a lot of people relying on me.
Yeah. Some people say like they don't want to sign things. I'm like, I'll sign it right now. You know, like, and that goes in anything in business, right? Like sign your name on this loan doc, sign your name on this, sign your name on this. I want to be the guy who is like seeing everything, looking at everything, signing. Like, it's a bit of a micromanagement, but it's not. It's like, hey, you know, let's do more. Let's speed this thing up. But Tom Brady said something. It was at one of the growth conferences. He said, the thing that pushed me the most is that it's actually not me failing myself, it's me failing other people. Like, I don't want to let down other people. Like, I don't want to let down my mom, who believed in me when I was 18 years old. I don't want to let down my uncle. I don't want to let down Grant. I don't want to let down all the partners, you know? So that really drives me to become better. But I always wanted to become great amongst other great people.
Yeah, I love that. But why? There's more underneath that. Well, when you're sleeping and you're like, I could miss going out today, or, you know, I won't go to work today. Like, what comes in your mind? There has to be something deeper than that. Not saying that that's not deep.
No, I get it. Well, look, I was born with something different than most people. My mother was like, I have no idea like what it even was with you. Well, no, I mean, it's like there were so many things stacked against me. God, why?
What do you mean by stacked against you?
Well, I mean, you know, I had the cord wrapped around me, you know, 3 or 4 times. You know, I was 2 weeks early. You know, almost died when I was born. I was the third of. So, by the way, I was an accident. Like, my mom had, you know, she didn't want to have any more kids. Somehow, some way, I found my way through. I was the youngest. I was the youngest of 3. I grew up really quick because my sister was 5 years ahead of me. She was really, really book smart. My brother was more of an artist, but I grew up really quick because, you know, when you're 5 years younger, you just grow up 5 years older, right? And so by the time I was a teenager, I've already gone through all that stuff. Probably want to prove to people, you know, that I can do it. You know, I think that's a reason why. You know, I do have a chip on my shoulder. You know, I've always wanted to prove my brother wrong and my sister wrong, and, you know, I think they counted me out. To be honest with you, I think a lot of people counted me out. When I've been in a lot of uncomfortable situations, because again, I've always had those people looking at me growing up, and when you're the youngest, you know, you're like, okay, well, I'm glad you think that about me, but I'm going to get stronger. Because remember, my brother was older than me. He was 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
He was stronger than I was my entire life. So I wanted to go in the gym. I wanted to work. I wanted to fucking beat him up. You know what I mean? And then one day he stopped the bullshit. And I was like, because you know why? You know. Same with my sister. She was really smart, but it's like, hey, you got a lot of smarts, but you know the common sense is a shortage. You know? So I wanted to have a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
So proving people wrong. You know, I want to prove to people, goddamn, I will be at that table, and I could help a lot of people because I'm at that table.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it, man.
Awesome, man.
You're a savage, dude. I love your energy. It's insane.
Well, that's again why I wanted to do this in person.
When he met you in Florida, he was like, bro, I met Ryan. He was like vibrating. He was on something. He's like, I want whatever he's taking. I'm like, all right.
Yep.
What is it?
Well, so I mean, look, I try a lot of different supplements.
Yeah.
I'm big at like we did the cold plungers yesterday.
Nice.
I'm willing to try anything, but I think it's the other people. You know, like you guys definitely have a different vibration that increases mine too.
Yeah.
But it's the attitude piece. You know, like I wake up, I'm very grateful. It's the simple things, but I just hang out with a lot of great people. You know, no nonsense. It's no bullshit.
I love it, man.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.